Hello, everyone. So today we're here in Afterburn episode 6. It's exciting. The major starts in a week. So we're just going to talk kind of about a few of the Twitter topics today because the Rocket League Twitter community was very spicy and very fired this week. A lot of interesting tweets and topics to discuss in general. So as always, this is Gib. I'm your host. And then we have,
Yeah, I'm in some short for
I'm
Insomnics.
I'm Blink.
yeah, so the first kind of like big Twitter thing that popped up this week, and there's like quite a few kind of like tweets that went back and forth with people, but it's natural talent versus hard work debate. And it all got sparked. I think it was Sosa and Noli who started it all, but it was a little bit of like Sosa tweeted, natural talent is greater than hard work. And then Noli, he didn't like this. He then replied with such a lie, don't tweet this shit ever again. And from there, they kind of went back and forth and like both kind of said their sides and reasoning, and other people like Gregan and like Jorby also tweeted it and like shared their sense on the Twitter section stuff. So we thought we'd kind of like share our take and like kind of like also what we think of the situation as well. Does anyone want to give their thoughts first?
Yeah, let me quickly read Noi's follow-up tweet. He says, also, to the pros out there, zero braining ranked, throwing scrims, and AFK in free play does not count as hard work.
I mean, he's right.
So, yeah, a very harsh statements out there, though, but especially because when we're considering like who he's subtweeting at. In my opinion, I think he's right. I think like it's more of like an NA problem, and it's funny to see how Noi calls it out.
NA culture.
Yeah, it's really NA culture. We don't see that many complaints in the EU. I'm not saying there's like no throwing scrims in the EU, because there have been reports of that, but I feel like it's more of just an NA thing. And it's interesting that like Noi, like, who just came to NA, is calling this out. So probably not something he's used to. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
What do you think,
it's
Flynn?
a difference, right? Like the EU. I think there are still a lot of people in the EU pros that don't care. They don't put hours in. There's like a few examples that a lot of people know, like Archie,
For sure.
maybe Archie, Joris, because like literally nobody wanted to team with them because like they had very low hours.
54.
Well,
Alpha
Jory just
54.
mindlessly does free play all day, right? So
Does he? Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know. Some
um,
players do.
yeah, at NA, like you could tell the ones who work hard are at the top, right? Like G2, the boys in G2, they work hard. V1, all those players like work hard, and the SSG boys, I think they don't work hard as a team as much as like the way G2 and V1 does. But and like they do a lot more like free play and like and twos ranks, which is why like another reasons why I think they're not playing as well because like they're going for too many air dribbles from the twos meta. But anyway, this is another topic. I think yeah, there's like hard work is what's gonna get you to the very top. It does take talent, but hard work at the end of the day is the thing that's needed the most, and it's the biggest difference maker in the pros. And like
Well, I feel
it's
like
not always the same type of hard work, right?
yeah. Well, it's like the top teams don't really throw as much because there's a reason why they're at the top. This is more prevalent in the bubble scene, or people who are in the, let's say, like 16 to like 32, or even 50, like top 50 NA range. Like this is what we're talking about when we say like bubble scene. And Sosa's kind of been there for a while, and I think that's why he tweeted that out of frustration. He's one of the few pros that's been here for so long
It's copium.
with
He's just trying to cope
pretty much no
mentally.
success.
I think Sosa's tweeting this to like at the end of the day, he's been there and he hasn't like ever gone on like a top 5 team in NA, etc. Like really made it big. So he doesn't want to take the fact that he's not good enough. So he's going to say, "Oh, I just don't have the natural talent. It's not about the work. The work's not important." I think that he just wants to cope in his own mindset. But personally, I just think at the end of the day, like the people at the top, you get there because you need some form of like raw talent. I think some people just don't have that raw talent, so they'll never be able to go pro. But like, so I think to like get at the top, you need to have some type of raw talent. But then once you're at the top, I think what distinguishes the people who have that like base raw talent need to go pro is the work they put in, not their raw talent. If that kind of makes any sense, I think that's the natural approach I have it. Because like I think there's a lot of people who like work super hard, but they're just not going to go pro because they don't have the like natural base raw talent needed, right? But then once you like get to the top and everyone has the base raw talent, the thing that separates them is like how much work and effort they're willing to put into their craft and really like master it and hone it.
Yeah, the
That
only
definitely sounds
anomaly.
like
Sorry, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, good point.
The only anomaly is that is Justin, in my opinion.
Justin
Like he,
apparently
I
puts in
mean,
a lot of work, but
yeah, but
yeah,
he plays like casual threes most of the time, like free play.
yeah, I
Not
think
compared to like other players like that like
yeah.
grind twos
Okay, maybe there
and
could be
like grind.
exceptions
I
where.
was I was gonna say, at the end of the day, there's always gonna be like one or two anomalies of like people where like they don't have to put in as much work as others, and that's like a base thing. But I think like just as like a natural baseline, generally hard work will outbeat natural talent, like in the majority of situations. And I think you can see that a lot with like NA results, because I think personally nobody really had Gen G going second, first in NA, because like I don't think people thought Gen G as like a team had the most raw talent of all the rosters within NA. But I think they worked the hardest of almost any of the teams within NA, and it showed in their results. Like everyone thought FaZe Clan was like, oh, they're the best team on paper, they're gonna win everything, and then I mean they did well, don't get me wrong, but they didn't have as good results as Gen G did or a couple of the other teams.
Yeah, I think that's a good example where like FaZe Clan is literally like they're all talent. Like they have so much raw talent, and that's exactly what you said, right? Gen G, like they're all like two-thirds of them are also coming from Europe, right? So it's like they're making a big investment by going halfway across the world. They're obviously going to put in a ton of effort and a lot of hard work to make sure
Well,
that it wasn't wasted, you
not
know?
obviously, a lot of people just come to NA to secure the bag, but yeah, you'd
That's-
hope if you traveled halfway around the world, you'd put in the effort, and Gen G certainly did, from everything
yeah.
they posted, at least on social media and their hours and their mindset.
Well, from what I've seen, like apparently Jack and Noe are very, very hardworking,
Yeah.
so it kind of contributes to that. But it's also,
Yep.
as you said, like this goes for not just Rocket League, right? Eventually, talent will only get you so far in really any skill, any sport, any craft, anything in life. And eventually, you're gonna need to work hard. They can only carry you so far. But that's my take on that.
I think you see it with pro athletes. I mean, any pro athlete who's like considered the GOAT or the best of the best, most of the time they have some like insane work ethic, or like they've really tried to do everything possible to perfect their craft. On like obviously there's a few exceptions, but most cases there's some of the hardest working individuals, and that's why they got to be so great, was because on top of their raw talent they put in so much work. And then there's also a lot of cases where people were like, they thought these players would do super well and had all the talent in the world, and then they flop. And they probably flop because they just thought they were so good they would stay good, but they just got outworked by other players individually. I think there's a lot of cases for that as well. But
Right. And then we have NA Rocket League culture where you have people trolling scrims and just doing and trolling and ranked and throwing games, and then wondering why they are not getting the results they expect.
Yeah, you don't really hear about any other teams outside of NA trolling as much. Yeah. Do we know any examples of players that we think have like crazy talent but just aren't able to get there because of their like lack of hard work?
I mean, I could give a few out of pocket names. I don't maybe but like this is based off just things I've seen like a year or two ago. Like maybe their mental or mentality has changed, but like I
Mm.
think Knight's an example of one. I think he's got like a lot of the raw talent, but he like trolls a lot. I think another good example of one is Evo. Evo's trolled a ton in ranked and everything, and I thought he had a ton of potential raw talent and looked really good mechanically and would be like potentially the next Daniel, but he kind of came in and flopped. And I think maybe part of that's just because of his lack of work ethic and like desire to actually put in like the hard meaningful work. I think he just goes into twos and trolls, or goes into
Yeah.
free play and trolls, sort of deal. So those are a couple of the players. I think there's like more if you look real hard, but those are like the two that pop up to my mind the most.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's fair because they're both touted as super mechanical
Oh,
players that would.
Stealth as well.
Stealth doesn't like grind. Well,
I
he
think he's just
doesn't.
like kind of trolly in his grind, or it's not like full work ethic all the time. It's not like, I think like if you're putting in hard work, I think at the end of the day, like 90% of the time you're playing the game should be like you're playing the game to like get better and like really put in good meaningful work. These players are ones where I think it's like maybe they do that like 50% of the time they play the game, and then the other 50% they're just kind of like doing whatever for no reason, or like they're just playing to play. They're not really playing to get better or playing to improve, or they're doing even worse and trolling, maybe
Yeah.
actively being bad.
Or like they're not like actually training in the right ways, or they're
Yeah,
not
they're
like
not.
replay
Yeah,
reviewing. They're not like focusing on what things they
yeah.
actually have to work on.
Or the other
Um,
big thing that they should have is like people replay review. They do it to just say they replay review. Like when they actually do the replay review, they do it in a way where they don't actually gain anything from it, and that's like, in my mind, so dumb. But like a lot of players do this in any, like they'll do the replay review, but then when they're in the replay review, all they'll do is be like very out of it. So they'll just be like probably on their phone scrolling Twitter and just like saying to the coach, "Yeah, sounds good. I don't agree with that." Blah blah blah. Like they're not actually like putting their mind into it a lot of the time. So
mhm.
like I think a lot of those guys are like they'll say they replay review so they can like post to Twitter, but like when they actually do the replay review, they're not putting in meaningful time with it to actually improve or take away anything from it. They're just there to argue or there to like do whatever, but not actually get better. I
Yeah,
saw
so
that a
doing stuff for
lot
the sake of doing
when I
it.
was in the bubble teams. When I was with, like all my bubble teams in the RL scene and stuff, we would do replay reviews and everyone wanted to do it, but when we actually got to it, they never would do what was required to actually take information about it. It was just useless time where like they just wanted to say they did it, but not actually take anything away from it because they whatever reason thought it was useless, or it was really odd to me. I still don't understand why people do that, but
Yeah, it's weird because you think with the amount of time you've spent in the game, you might as well make it worthwhile rather than just get upset and start ongoing and then relying on your back in game and then refusing to forfeit. I don't see how that's supposed to help you improve.
yeah, like you did all this work, right, to get to SSL and
Yeah.
be in like you're so close to going pro, right? You literally did all the hard work and like grinding the mechs, and then you just troll it in your your work ethic because you for whatever reason just want to troll replay reviews and like you don't want to make any money, but you only want to make like $10 in weeklies or whatever, but you don't actually want to do what it takes to make all the money. I've never really personally understood that mindset. I think it's really silly, but a lot of
the
people take that.
Yeah, and it's like this mindset of, or even, yeah, this mindset of hard work that it only matters the amount, the quantity of what you're doing, and not the quality of the work is the biggest difference, right? If you, and this is pervasive in like every type of
Anything in life, honestly.
anything in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may say you work hard, and yeah, you spend like 10 hours a day grinding the game. But if all you're doing is playing tiers and not thinking and just like listen to music and that's all you're doing and you're not actually trying to improve and use your brain, like your actual brain, to get better at the thing you're doing, or actually make the this or the time that you're actually spending in that 8 hours quality time, obviously that's not really hard work, right? That's just like chilling and doing something mindlessly. You have to use your mind to actually get better at that thing, or do that thing with your mind to actually make sure that it's quality work that you're doing.
Yeah, I think the best thing I can add to this is like I don't know the exact ratios, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like there's a certain threshold where like you could do maybe 2-3 hours a day of Rocket League, but if your 2 to 3 hours a day is like you're super active, you're like doing really efficient, grinding of the game to get better, you will like let's say you start off at like okay, let's take it back a bit. Let's say like you take two players, they're bronze. They both start out at bronze, and the goal is to reach SSL as quickly as possible. If you had one player who played 2 hours a day, but it's like the best 2 hours of training in his life, right? Like super dedicated, grinding all the mechs, grinding everything, he will reach SSL over player B who plays 10 hours a day, but maybe he just plays twos and doesn't care at all, or he just hits free play, but he doesn't care at all in what he does. The guy who does 2 hours a day of like committed training will severely reach SSL much quicker than the guy who plays 10 hours a day of just chilling music, not really caring about how he improves. And I think this still applies at the pro level. Like you could work 2 hours a day, but it's like committed and hard work grinding, and you'd actually improve more than if you did 10 hours a day. But as like Noli said, you're just in free play music on, doing nothing important, or like playing twos mindlessly, and it doesn't really matter at all because you're not actually improving or doing anything.
You think it's like an age issue where these guys are really so young they don't actually understand how to hone in their
No,
mental, or
I don't
is
think it's
this
an
like
age
their
issue.
mental is just not strong enough? Their will isn't as strong as some of the other pros to be the best at the game.
I don't think it's an age issue. I think it's just like a Rocket League NA culture issue more than an age issue. Because if you look at like other aspects in life, there's plenty of 15 to 19-year-olds who are very driven in what they do, and like they understand that it's important to like put in hard work over just like mindless work, whether it's like in real sports or like people who make their own businesses at 16, etc. At the end of the day, right, like pro Rocket League is supposed to be the top 0.001%, right? So if you're in the top 0.001%, like you should understand that, because the top 0.001% of like hockey players at that age, or the top 0.001% of like people making businesses that age understand it, but for some reason, the top 0.01% Rocket League players don't. So I don't think it's an age thing. But
so yeah, so that comes back to like the talent versus hard work, right? I think if you have a little bit of talent and you just play the game mindlessly and you play ranked and you just do your thing, you can get onto like top 16 pro teams. But I
Oh,
don't
for
think
sure.
you'll ever get to a major team without doing the actual hard work that Nolly's talking about. Because without that hard work, you're not gonna actually improve past like being able to use your mechs and like sometimes be in the right position or frame of mind to play at that kind of level. Because you need the consistency, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think NA is still good enough where like the top 5 teams that make it to the majors are at least putting in enough of, like, they're putting in hard work. The top 3 teams are probably putting like an immense amount of hard work, and like maybe the 4 or 5 teams aren't putting as much, but they're still putting in like enough hard work where you're not going to get there if you're just messing around or like mindlessly doing things. And I think the biggest thing is just perception. Like, some of these pros probably think they're doing hard work, as Noli alluded to, but they're really not, and maybe that's why they're not getting like the results they want, because they're not actually like spending the time needed to like really analyze and break down the nitty gritty of like, any aspect of Rocket League to improve, and like within your teamwork and things.
You guys think that's what makes Gen G so successful? I mean, apparently Jack and Nolly, they're good players in EU, but they haven't had much success. And then suddenly, like,
Oh, they had success in EU.
yeah, but they weren't like as dominant as they are right now.
Yeah.
And I'm
Mhm.
wondering if they all of a sudden they like put in extraordinary amount of work now that they previously were working hard, but working even harder now, and that's why they're so dominant and successful in NA when they weren't really expected to be.
I think it's there's a lot of factors to that why Gen G was successful. I think hard work was definitely one of them. I think one
Or
of the
rather,
biggest
efficiency of their
factors,
work, right?
efficiency. Yeah,
Both.
yeah, yeah. When I say hard work, I mean like real hard work.
Yeah.
I don't mean like
They did both
amount of
well.
hours.
They put in good amount of hours and put in like a very efficient amount into those hours as well. So
Yeah, but like I think I touched on this before. I think the whole change of moving to a whole new region, the just like different settings around you, as well as just having a new team environment with people who are actually fun to play with. They probably like playing on the same team. It's that spark of inspiration that I think can really boost the creativity inside your mind to play Rocket League in a new way that you haven't been playing before, and in a way that's like it's almost like you're peaking or in that flow like all the time when you're in that kind of new mindset. Like having a really good mindset is really important, I think. And that they're changed to NA and like having a team that's nice and like a new org, Gen G, like or Gen G is a nice org too. Like there's a lot of factors that help them push to being like that really dominant and consistent team, as well as like there came during a time when for some reason a lot of NA teams like to air dribble and that's all they do. SSG. And I feel like that's not a meta that is not gonna like I feel like that meta is
it's a
not
bad
gonna
meta.
work at in the major for NA. That's why I don't
Yeah.
think they're gonna do that well. At least like SSG. Maybe they prove me wrong. I hope they do because I want NA to do well, but I feel like Gen G's ground game and their passing was very successful against like a lot of the teams in NA.
Yeah.
So
The other thing I kind of want to comment about Gen G is I just think they're kind of like the best team to talk about for this. Is like, although I know they've said like Chronic has put in like a lot of effort and has been like a very big motivator himself within the team. I do think part of the reason why he reached that is because he was with Noli and Appjack. I think if Chronic was on another NA team that didn't have like obviously 2 European people that brought over like the European culture and really instilled it within the Gen G team, I don't think we would have seen Chronic as good as he is today if he was with like just 2 other NA players. I don't know what team would be a good example, but like if he was just with 2 other like NA players, I don't think he'd be as good of as a player as if he was compared to like being on Gen G. I just think like the European culture really let him be like the best person he can be for himself, and as a result, we're seeing like the best we've ever seen Chronic play out of him as a player. So
That's a fair take.
all right, moving on to the next topic. I think that's all we got for hard work.
yeah, I think that's the most for natural talent versus hard work. The quick summary
Yeah.
is I think Sosa is incorrect in every way, and good take by Nolly. I personally am not a huge fan of Sosa just for bubble reasons throughout my career, but yeah, we won't get into that. And then the next
Much better could say.
the next thing is this one's it's a bit of a, there's a lot of tweets, so we'll just kind of like take it, tweet by tweet. But I think it really started on the first tweet was by Luke. I know a lot of people probably won't know who Luke is. He's I don't know if bubble player is the right word. I think he's more of like a semi-pro player. He was in RLRS a few times. He's always kind of like, I think he's made a few like qualifiers here and there, and he's also in the CRL scene and stuff. But he tweeted, "Rock League is at the worst I've ever seen it, sadly. Nothing fresh to the game. Basically the same game I was playing 6 years ago, and at this point it brings me no enjoyment, to be honest. Seeing other people complain about it as well sucks to see." I think if you've listened to past episodes, you already know that parts of this tweet we've already talked about and kind of like share the same sentiment or feeling about, like, we wish the game brought more enjoyment, like just to a general population as a whole. But then in response to this, Sunless Khan, fired back with some hot words. He's like, "Since 2016, Rock League added 18 LTMs, 8 standard maps, 50 plus cars, a new rank set, replay FX." The list goes on. He just basically listed like everything Rocket League's changed since 2016, etc., as like a thing to combat Luke, and then just said, "Am I forgetting anything?" in like a kind of sarcastic, at least I took it as like he's trying to be like a smart ass sarcastic kind of way sort of deal. But yeah, so then we're just kind of like my thoughts on this is like it's kind of like I'm in the middle. I think both of them are like right in a degree, but also wrong in a sense, because my biggest thing is like, yeah, Rock League's added a ton since 2016. Like, Sunless Con isn't wrong. They've added a ton. But the issue is like where I would view and take it as like, I think they've needed to add more to like their core game modes, and they haven't added enough like what I would consider a core gameplay changes. So that's where I think Luke is right in that like Rock League hasn't done a great job in making the core gameplay fresh and exciting, and it's starting to get stale for a lot of people, me included. And I'd love to see something change about their like core gameplay. And no offense to the LTM modes that Sunless Con listed, but to me, not many people play those. It's not their core gameplay. That's not what retains players at all. You can see that very clearly if you just look at any of the stats. So, yeah, and like standard map changes and VFX changes, nothing to do with core gameplay. That doesn't really have anything to do with like player retention or people wanting to play the game, in my opinion.
Because Luke is coming at this from a player's perspective, whereas Sunless Khan he's a content creator. He's not playing the game professionally. His goal is to make content, which involves, so when a new limited time mode comes out, that's good for him. It means nothing to the rest of like a semi-pro player who does not care about such a mode because it's not used in RLCS.
But even to the core player, like honestly, like maybe side modes bring a couple players back, but I think we've seen it doesn't boost player base at all, or like have anyone like keep retained player base. Like it's just kind of like a whatever thing now within Rock League because of the way they've treated it. It's just like, oh cool, maybe I'll play it once.
Well, the thing is, it's a limited time. Remember when we had Heatseeker and like there were pros who actually like loved playing that because it was refreshing to the game, and then they never made it a permanent game mode. They just took it away.
They're cool, but like
people haven't asked.
Yeah, I think they don't make it a permanent game mode because, like, honestly, if they made Heatseeker permanent game mode, that's great. It'll just be Rumble. It'll have like an 1,000 person, like, Reddit section, but like 1,000 players at the end of the day that's like 0.001% of your player base. That's not like, it's not significant enough to like,
That's true. It's a new mode, but I admit it's not like a change to the core game.
Yeah, like
anyway.
Yeah, but then we can talk about his other tweet too that he brought up, right? Like the actual good tweet, in my opinion, where he said
he goes back
like,
a little bit.
He backpedals a little bit. He also said something like, when I tweeted that, like that list of things that changes, I wasn't stating my opinion. Like bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on that right now. That's 100% an opinion.
That's an opinion. Like you don't comment on and say the thing at the end when he says like, "Am I forgetting anything?" If that's not your opinion. Like that's a crazy way to like try to be neutral but not be neutral, in my opinion. But
yeah, I think he was probably tired of seeing so much negativity about Rocket League, especially since now he has an esports org and that's like entirely based on Rocket League.
I just wish he owned it a little more than trying to be like.
Yeah, that's definitely. He said you shouldn't have said that.
You make a strong statement. You have to be able to accept criticism and be able to defend your thoughts instead of saying, actually, well, not my opinions. It's something to suspect. You know?
It's
Yeah,
like
you
going to
gotta.
someone saying like, sorry, but it's like, oh,
No,
like,
fuck it.
you know, by the way, like your hairstyle isn't in fashion, but not my opinion, just like the way the fashion's on trend is. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, weird. That statement was weird. But in like his new tweet, right? He said, what did he say exactly? He said like he does believe that Rocket League should be doing like is making a bunch of changes but aren't meaningful,
yeah,
and that here's like two ways I could really make like meaningful changes, right? And he said one is a big update to the rank system, which I do agree. I think the
Yeah.
rank system has to be more rewarding to the players. Has to be more like invigorating. As they have to do something unique and creative with the rank system, or have it be like something that just doesn't get boring as quickly. Like
they
because
should
the
have
meta,
changes to it yearly, like once a year or
yeah,
something to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
yeah,
care
or
what
have
it
like
is, but
there
And
could
he
be
suggested
like a
team mode.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
It could be
team
like
mode has been suggested by Pashy since like
team mode.
2016, 2017.
yeah, like 3v3
He's been asking this
club
for
rank.
like half a
Yeah,
decade.
club rank would be
Yeah.
cool.
Right? Like teams, clubs, any sort of like mode where it's not just randoms. You're playing with a team against teams. And it's been
Mhm.
asked for half a decade. And someone is
Yeah.
bringing it up again. So like I would agree on that. I think that would be cool. It's been asked by everyone with few objections, and they've just never done it.
Yeah,
And the other thing someone's mentioned was creative mode, similar to how like, Fortnite works.
Yeah, I
exactly.
think
Yeah.
that would help. I think the issue they have with creative mode is they would need to do it in Fortnite where it's like so seamlessly easy for the person to actually play it and play with their friends. But I don't know if they'll ever get there. That's my only issue.
They did recently just I think they just released the new Fortnite season is actually going to be in the Unreal 5 engine. Actually it might have been already in
I think
Unreal
it's
5
already
engine,
5, yeah.
but now it's actually using the tools that are in Unreal 5 engine with like Nandite and Lumen.
Yeah.
Which I'm saying, like, imagine if Rocket League actually had used the tools of Unreal Engine and like right now when I booted up Rocket League, I feel like I'm playing a pretty old game, you know?
You
Like it
can
looks
tell. Yeah.
like some of the decals, like it looks a little pixelated. And I feel like if they updated like the UI so it actually isn't like garbage. You know, it's weird because they updated the UI once and I feel like they went backwards with the design and forwards. So
Yeah, I don't
but
know.
if they made a better UI, like introduce some new features, like an esports page that keeps people up to date with esports, like allows pick'ems like CS:GO does during majors or stuff. Added a creative mode so that there's actually like infinite amount of content for like casuals and like content creators, so like they will never be able to complain, to be honest,
You got
because
pick'ems
yeah,
that gives rewards in game if you
exactly,
like
and
do
they
well
got more
compared
rewarding
to
rank
other
system.
people.
There you go. Like that's your formula for success for keeping the game alive, and they can just like
Yeah.
maybe don't do battle passes anymore and do like new like skin packs. Like I think Riot does the best with skins out of like any
They pump
esport.
skins. They
Yeah,
pump skins.
but like the skins are like people tweet about the skins. You know, nobody. I never see anybody tweet about like Fortnite skins.
The other
really.
cool thing
I don't
Riot
know.
does is like, although people want it a little differently, is they give special skins if you win worlds. Like the players get to make special world skins if you win worlds,
Yeah, like, that'd be
which is a
cool
cool
too, right?
talking point. I know we already have like the esports skins or whatever, but like if you get like an extra personalized, maybe custom skin with your org if you won worlds, that'd be even cooler on top of the FaZe Clan esport decals we already have. I think it'd be really cool. Also, like the one thing I think would be really neat, and like this is just a quick example of like in game, like if they were to have like an in game reward system, so like let's say you predict the major, right? You say you do your whole bracket, etc. You predict it, or they have pick'ems for like who you think is gonna score the most goals. You get 10 points if you get the player correct, etc. And let's say you like got it perfect. League does this too, where it's like they had pick'ems for worlds, and if you got every prediction perfect, you would unlock every single legend skin in the game. Obviously, the odds
Damn.
for this are next to like it's literally like it's never gonna happen, but it's cool that
Yeah.
it's there, right? If Rocket League
Exactly.
did this where they had the same thing, like if you predicted everything perfectly and you unlocked Alpha Boost, how cool would that be for like people,
Yeah,
for
that'd be
players?
sick.
I don't think anyone would complain about that, would they? If you got everything right, they give you Alpha Boost. Like how would you complain about that? That'd be cool. That'd be such a unique like event to the majors and worlds. Like I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be like a cool thing. Maybe it doesn't have to be Alpha Boost particularly, but like something like that would be very unique and cool to the game. I think they could add to keep people.
They
Like,
could literally
updated.
do anything, especially when they have such like some companies like Riot to compare themselves to. You can literally just copy paste everything Riot does, and it would automatically improve your esport.
I don't
But
know if they could exactly copy paste, but
maybe
they
copy
could
paste,
definitely take some
borrow some
inspirations.
ideas. Like if you're trying to be successful, why not look at someone or an entity like a company that has been successful and still is? I don't see what's so difficult to do about that.
And you can put
So
your own twist on
I
it.
think it's unfair to like I don't think it's fair to just keep defending Psyonix, even though I do understand he's got to maintain a good connection with the people at Psyonix.
Hmm.
It's in his best interest to defend Psyonix, you know. So I kind of understand why there's such a bias, but
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a bit in the middle because like I don't want to harass Sonic saying they've changed nothing because they have done a lot of good changes in the game, and I think they should get some credit for that. Although I do think they did some of them a little late, but they still did it. So I think they should deserve credit for that. Some of this is right in that they have made a lot of good meaningful changes, like transparent goalposts, and like they've done a lot of good changes within like quality of life fixes and issues for a lot of like trading systems, etc. They have done like a lot of good changes, and like limited time game modes are still cool that they have added like drop shot hoops, all those game modes, etc. Like I don't want to say they've done nothing because they have done like a lot of, I guess, cool things that have been good, but like my issue is more that in my opinion they have really done nothing well in terms of like the core of their game that people play, because at the end of the day, like
Meaningful changes, right?
meaningful changes to the core, they've done a lot of meaningful changes to like the UI and game modes and stuff that's been really good, but I think like core gameplay meaningful changes have been like minimal. They've done a bug in the flip reset, which wasn't supposed to happen, but that was like a core gameplay meaningful change they did. Um, I guess the other thing they did was like they changed how ranked works a few times, right? They used to have like the all-star ranking system, which was awful, and then they went to like the bronze, silver, gold, plat, GC, and then they added the GC3 SSL ranked eventually. So they have changed, the ranked gameplay updates, I
Mhm.
think twice, maybe three. It's either two or
yeah.
three times in the history, which is like good. Don't get me wrong, but like other than that, they haven't. I think they've done like maybe 3 or 4 changes to like the core game mode at the end of the day.
Yep.
Unless you want to count like map changes as a core game mode, like they removed the Wasteland and the Starbase Arc and Neo Tokyo. Like I don't know if people remember, but they used to have the
Depressing.
weird ones in the ranked game mode, like the different map types. So I guess maybe 5 changes or whatever to ranked, but like some of those were very minor, and a lot of the issues I have is like at the end of the day, 80%, 90% of your play. I don't have the exact numbers, but over half of your player base plays the game for casual ones, twos, threes, ranked ones, twos, threes. They don't really play anything else. That's what they're there to play, and that's your core, player base. And they haven't made many meaningful changes to the gameplay of casuals, one, two, threes, and ranked one, two, threes. It's like the exact same. So that's kind of
Yeah,
like
just
my
new.
issue and like criticism of the meaningful like changes being made. But
Yeah, I like the changes they do make after like season per season. Is just the changes of the rewards you get from those ranks. I like
yeah,
sometimes those barely change too.
yeah. Some of the cosmetics have been poorly done, like the spiked wheels from the one season where they literally forgot about the end of season rewards. Like, is SumlessCon trying to defend that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Some of the
but like
changes are like,
they're going the right direction in
yeah,
some of the ways, right? Like with this Nike FC Cup,
those are great.
fan
Yeah,
clash
yeah,
stuff, like
yeah.
they could do these events, maybe blow them up bigger, right? Do more. I think the biggest thing honestly is the marketing too. Like players do not know when these things are going on. They have to find out from
That's true.
pros about like these. Like I didn't know about the decals coming out until I saw it from like Reddles or somebody posting. I'm like, that is a sick decal. I want it. I reinstalled the game, played it, deleted it after I like got all the things because I hated ranked. Right? Like, there's nothing keeping me there. But they can keep bringing me back if they do these fun events that are like really engaging and not just like they could do like this FC like Nike FC fan clash cup or whatever. Like
Yeah,
they did the decals, like it was great, but you could even make it more engaging by like maybe I don't have to just play this game mode. Maybe it's like I have to compete in this tournament um with my
friends.
like the banner
Oh,
like
the
for
banner.
whatever
Yeah,
like and represent
yeah.
my country. I then if like my country's banner is the one that like wins the most tournaments or something, like we get a special decal or something,
Yeah, that'd
and
be
like
cool.
they
Yeah,
could do these things that are way more engaging and meaningful. But I think they're just this goes back to UE5. So I think they're limited in their resources, both like dev power, marketing power, as well as just like they're just so stuck on this old engine that they can't do these changes in the time that they need because it's just like so much technical debt they're in, right? With this
Yeah.
UE3 engine. So I don't know.
And
It
every
could be
time they make
utopian,
any
but
update, they consistently reintroduce new bugs
yeah.
or existing bugs that were fixed. They're back again. Like I'm not sure. Like I guess from a software standpoint, that does imply like a ton of technical debt, which is why people like move to new engines and why people are asking for UE5.
Mhm.
I do agree that I think they're limited both by
Yeah.
software as well as like funding and physical capabilities. As we've seen, Epic has not lent a single hand to Psyonix. They've spent all their efforts on Fortnite, not on Rocket League.
Yeah, so the other thing I think they're limited by, I know we've talked about this a bit, and I think I don't know what the correct word is because I think they're just kind of screwed and not exactly like, they're kind of like back in the corner where they can't really do anything for this. But I play other games, and like a lot of other games, like I'll play on and off, right? But the things that like draw me back to play them would be like, I'll just give examples. Some games is like Apex Legends is a game where like if I see them release a new update where they have this new character in the game or something, I'll be like, oh, I want to go play that. And it'll bring me back into the game and maybe have me play it for a month or two. Or like League of Legends release a new champion, or they do like huge ranked season changes at the end of the year. So I'm like, oh, they just released new items in League of Legends. I want to go play competitive again and see how they interact within the competitive game mode. You know, same goes for like Apex. You can do it for League of Legends. Valorant can add new champs or new maps that would make me want to go back. Or CS:GO, even though they don't do it often, they still have like rotations of maps or some changes that maybe say like, oh, I want to go see how this affects competitive, and maybe it's really fun to try it out again. When I go to
Mhm.
Rocket League, this is what I mean by like they need core changes. Is like they never have really had a core change in the last 5 years or 4 years I can think of that maybe went, oh, I want to go back to try to see how this affects competitive. But at the same time, I think they're back in the corner because I don't think they can with the way the game is. It's not like with the way the fan base wants the game to change. You can't physically make any change to the game that would make someone say, hey, I want to come back and try out this new competitive game mode and see how it plays within the game, because it would require too much where the fan base is in like arms about it. Like to me, that's like one of the issues that like Rocket League literally can't fix, and it hurts them. And it was just like, I guess maybe poor forefront of how they started the game from day one. But it's just something they have, other games have that they're so successful with that like Rocket League literally can't have. But I
I
don't know
mean,
if
the
that made
only
any
meaningful
sense.
change we
But
had was hitbox standardizations, and that was because the
actually,
argument
that's
was that we didn't want to
what.
make a
Yeah,
new decal and then hard code it for just one card. That's why they
I
standardized it,
forgot about that.
so it's
That's a
easy
good
to test that.
example. The only thing in recent memory that made me say, "Hey, I want to try this out in ranked," was when the Merc hitbox got added. That was the only thing that actually did make me go, "Oh, I really want to try Merc and see how it relates to the game and see if it changes anything." That was the only one in recent memory I could think of. I think they just need to do more of that. I don't know how they should do it because like the fan base would be in roar if they like we've talked about it, but like increase net size or like made like a new kickoff rotation or whatever. But like I think they should experiment with that because like I do think that's the way you could like get people back and keep them playing, is when you change something and it's meaningful. And like that's part of why I come back to League sometimes, like, oh, they added a new champ, or oh, they changed my one trick champ, I really want to see how it plays now because it's
Mhm.
new, it's exciting, it's refreshing, it makes me come back because I want to see how it like affected it, or see if it makes the game more fun, etc.
I think there's
I,
so many things they could do. Like, there's so many different like ways they could make ranked just more interesting. Like, well, here's one example. Imagine if at each like rank you can only play on certain maps, and like if you get to like SSL, you got like these really freaking cool maps that are like Champions Field. You can
Yeah,
only
yeah,
play Champions Field at like SSL, and so when you hit SSL, you get this feeling of prestige because you get to play on these fields in actual ranked, right? And you actually maybe you actually at the beginning of the season you know what rewards you can actually earn by getting this rank, so you actually grind harder, you play the game more, and you feel more rewarded actually like leveling up at that rank because you know you're getting closer to getting the like interesting decal or interesting
yeah.
like banner, and like these are actually like good end of season rewards because like they
The
have to be,
seasonal
right? They
rewards
can't
could be
they can't just be
better.
spiked wheels. They
Yeah,
should be better.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can I do one more comment on that? Like,
Yeah.
so the one thing I've been playing like League a lot more. The way they do their season rewards is, well, there's only one a year. I think Psyonix has like, it's probably like 3 or 4 a year with how like the seasons work because they're a little shorter. But League does like, they have season rewards once a year, but they're like, they don't pander, or they're not like soft to their fan base. So if you finish Iron, which is the lowest rank, you get like literally nothing. if you finish silver, you get like a little bit more. And the way it works is they like pick a champion, so they'll just pick a League of Legends champion. We'll say Ari, and they'll be like, okay, we're gonna give Ari this really dope skin. However, to get that skin, you have to be minimum gold ranked in the game. If you finish silver, iron, or bronze, you don't get the skin at all. So you have to be gold to get the skin. So you actually have to try to play the game and be good. Otherwise, you won't get the skin. And then if it's platinum, you get the skin plus like a chroma. And then it keeps going up. So like Challenger gets like the skin and like the most chromas. And for people who don't know, chroma is like the in-game model of the champion is different colors that look way cooler, etc. So, but they base it so where like if you're not good enough, you get nothing. So you literally have to play the game to improve. But the way Psyonix does it right now is you literally just get an item for like the only difference is colors, right? So if they made it more like you have to be platinum or you won't get an item, that could be a way to like actually drive players to play and improve because it's like you're not gonna get anything if you finish gold. But I don't think Psyonix would ever do that because they've shown they're a bit of like soft towards their player base. Like they wouldn't like the backlash they get for people saying, "Oh, why can't I get item because I suck," sort of thing. But that'd be like another way to like you can make it so like that actually means something to get SSL. Like you get a super cool item that you won't get if you're GC or you won't get if you're champion, and kind of like scale the season reward items better to actually make people like care more about improving and actually playing the game than not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like I do agree with that. That they're kind of like soft on that. Like they've shown that they're like really sensitive to community uproar and backlash when they try to do something. Maybe like just speculating. Maybe that's why they're so hesitant on changing anything on the base game.
Yeah.
I'm not sure because they've really changed or at least done something for every part of the game except the core game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they're like scared that the players are just they're gonna launch into the game and they're not gonna like what they see. I mean, we're kind of in the minority when we say we want to see these changes. I mean, there's two sides, right? Like, there's a whole community that's like, oh, this game is so stale, and then there's a whole community where it's like, if they change something, they're like, oh, I don't like this change. Can we revert this change?
There'd be an outrage. They threatened to never.
There's
play
gonna
the
be
game
backlash
again.
no matter what they do, and I think they have to accept that.
It's just that
Yeah.
they do get less backlash for doing nothing. I'll say that significantly less backlash for doing nothing from the general community.
So that should show them that they should do more, right?
Yeah, I mean, I will say,
Generally.
League like just had a preseason where they did go wild. I mean, the community hates it, but everyone still plays the game. So I think the same would happen in Rocket League. Like, yeah, you might get like negative media, but you know what they say: negative media at the end of the day is better than no media at all. So I think yeah, maybe people will be outraged if you make a change, but guess what? You have to adapt. They'll learn to deal with it if they like the game, and they're going to keep playing it no matter what. Because at the end of the day, video games are like somewhat addicting. So if you keep making changes, they're just going to play no matter what. It doesn't matter. If they
They'll
really like the
complain, but
game, they're
they'll
going to
still
keep
play the
playing.
game.
If anything, it just might bring more people back and get them, more hooked again because there's actually something refreshing. Because one of the ways to probably, get rid of addiction is if it becomes boring and turns you off. So
Yeah, I'm kind of thankful Rocket League got boring.
yeah, it's
So I
like
can focus on school.
Rocket League's the one game you could actually play, but if you get good enough, it'll get boring because nothing changes. So you'll get unhooked because
Yeah.
there's nothing to keep you hooked. Where if League of Legends is a dangerous game because they keep changing it, so you just keep getting hooked over and over again, and it just never stops. And that's why I don't know if you guys see the League of Legends memes, but there's the whole. I think it has I'd say the biggest like meme around it of like don't play that game, you'll get addicted, and it has the whole meme of like, oh, thank God you uninstalled or never played it or like, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think that I don't know. There's just so much complacency. I mean, let me look at this next tweet and read it out to you guys. So this one's from Reddles. Never complaining about Psyonix / Epic again. After watching COD Esports, Lamal were blessed. 5,700 likes.
yeah. So
Like,
I think I'm the only one who knows actually the context for this. What he was referring to was, if you guys don't, you guys all know the game Call of Duty. I think that's actually the biggest game of any game in the world. Makes billions of dollars every year, but believe it or not, Call of Duty has an
biggest gaming
esport.
franchise.
Call of Duty has an esport for people who didn't know. And what Reddles was referring to is he was watching Call of Duty esports. And basically what happened was, I might get like some of the details wrong, but there was a bug in the game where if you called a certain kill streak in, it would like cause the game to completely like not function properly, so you wouldn't be able to actually play out the rest of the esport match, etc. Anyways, they're basically playing an esports professional match, and one of the teams called in this kill streak, and when like there was a big fuss over it, etc., like the match was like canceled or whatever, and then at the end of the day, one of the teams had to like forfeit, and a team got a free win over this billion-dollar game that had a bug in it over like an esport, and apparently the refs handled it horribly, the players handled it horribly. So like Reynolds was tweeting about that situation, saying, "Oh my gosh, we're so blessed because look at COD. It had this horrible thing that, I mean, it's a lie that Psyonix hasn't had it, but that Psyonix deals with better." Um, but I can think of quite a few Psyonix situations that are similar to the COD one, where like there's been glitches on typical controller disconnecting and people being in uproar about it. That I think it's just a bit of recency bias here from Idols, to be honest. But that's just my take on it.
No, like it goes back to the complacency with Insom was saying. Like, yeah, like Rocket League isn't like that. Like esport wise,
good.
I think they do pretty well, especially for their team size. Like they kill it for their team size. But like COD is the worst example you could. it's like saying like, oh man, this what's a
yeah,
good,
COD's never really been known to be a good one.
Here?
So
yeah, it's like complaining about something like. Okay, I don't know how to get into this without. I don't know a good example, but it's like complaining about something being bad and then like you literally complaining about it compared to like the worst example possible, right? Like COD is like the worst esport out there. I'm pretty sure.
one of the it might be the worst out there for like the resources they have, or like the potential like size of resources they have.
Yeah, not blaming the pro players or anybody who's really passionate in that scene. It's just like
nothing.
I know the actual org that handles it is terrible for handling it. Definitely worse than Psyonix.
I also want to say like I wasn't trying to like I think Psyonix actually like handles the player disputes and stuff pretty well for the most part. I think they do a really good job of like handing out bans, etc. and everything. So good on them for that. But I don't know, it's just like a little weird. It's like I don't know if that's like the comparison I'd want to be drawing, as you said, with Reddles. Like we're really comparing ourselves to COD esports on like ethics, when that's the scene that literally screams at each other at the top of their lungs about like a lot of obscene things I can't say or we get like desensitized or demonetized. So it's just everyone's seen the old COD clips. If you don't go Google like old COD trash talking YouTube clips, it's literally obscene. The stuff
you just have to.
I mean, it's still a thing today. I mean, it's just that I don't understand why we have to keep comparing ourselves to
COD,
something worse.
Why they always compare to COD.
It's so weird. It's like we see this in both Psyonix and like some pro players like in Redos. It's like you should be comparing yourself to someone good. Like you should be looking ahead, not behind you.
I can tell you why. It's NA culture bias. It's because all of the for whatever reason, all of the NA pros, or a lot of them, played COD growing up and followed the COD esports scene. They all know Scumpy. They all know like some of the COD pros, and so they're just comparing it to that because that's just what they know. They don't actually know. Like I think this happens to a lot of Rocket League players. Rocket League players are very ignorant to the whole esports scene, in my opinion. I don't think they really, for whatever reason, they don't educate themselves on like the general esports scene. They're very closed-minded, and they don't ever think about like the true tier 1 or like big esports for whatever reason. I just think they're very like kind of close-knitted, and for whatever reason they think COD's the only other big esport that exists, so that's what they compare themselves to. But I don't think they even ever think about League of Legends or like Dota 2 or CS:GO or Valorant. Well, they think about Valorant a little bit because some of them play them, but
I mean, you have a whole portion of the community claiming that Rocket League is a tier 1 esport, and saying that with a completely straight face. That kind of demonstrates just how ignorant some people are.
Seriously, yeah. Like I would rather be on the side of somebody who complains constantly about Psyonix than the one who like just completely ignores everything and is like, oh, I love Psyonix. I think Rocket League is the best esport to ever exist in the history of esports. And I'm like, you have not seen CS:GO. You have not seen League of Legends. Why are you holding the bar so low? And we can. I'm not saying I don't like. I don't want to be on the side of like people who complain about Rocket League all the time.
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of what we do on this podcast.
It's having like constructive criticism. I think.
Well, yeah, it's constructive criticism because I care more about our esport getting bigger and better than it staying the same and like being copium about how it's like a tier 1 esport. Like it can, I wanted to grow better. That's why I'm so constructive. Like that's why I'm so That's why I criticize it so much, is because I want the esport to keep growing, keep being better. I wanted to get to the heights of League of Legends, of CS:GO, because like that would be my dream of seeing like Rocket League just blow up one day, right? Like that's why I hate it when I see people say, "Oh, Rocket League's a tier 1 esport. It's so great." It's like, why are we holding the bar so low? We're never gonna grow to these heights, and like, why are we keeping ourselves at that level, right? Like, yes, we shouldn't be like toxic against Psyonix. We should like be constructive in our criticism, and that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
me, it's that too. It's like I agree with you. It's like I'm just so passionate about the game, and in my opinion, I think it could be so much bigger, and it should be so much bigger than it currently is, and at the stage of it. So like, I think if we go back to season one, I was probably happy all the way up to about like season 6, 7, and then I think season 6, 7, like after that is where I thought the game should keep getting bigger, 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 and it didn't, and that
Yeah.
kind of made me angry as a fan because in my opinion, the reason why it didn't get bigger was more because of what like Psyonix did than the game itself. Like, I just think the game could be so big, and I really wish I could, it could be as big as everyone think it should be. Because like all you ever hear about Rocket League is, oh, it's the easiest game to watch. Oh, it's like the most like family friendly game to ever watch. It's the most closest to sports. Like it sounds like it should be the biggest esport there, and it's just simply nowhere close. And I hate when people like talk about it like that, and it doesn't reach the potential. And when you actually like think about it from like an aspect of why it's not reaching the potential, it is constructive, but it is because of Psyonix at the end of the day, because that's the people that control it. So it's
Yep.
just kind of deal with like, yeah, like, the game idea can only take you so far. At some point, it's on the company to have the genius marketing strategy plan or the genius like ambition to actually like push the game out there to make it as big as I think it could be. And that's just why I'm so passionate about it and like constructive about it a lot of the times. Is like, I want nothing more than for this game to have like 2 million live viewers. Like, how insane would that be to go on a Twitch and see it's at 1.5 million viewers concurrent watching live? That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Like that'd be so much. How much more hype would the events be when you see 1.5 million watching? Like I just think like it could be so much bigger and so much better than what it currently is, and that's why it's like a lot of criticism.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm not complaining and trying to be negative just for the sake of complaining. It's because we do care a lot for the esport. That's the only reason.
Yeah, and we're not alone either. Like you see Lawler, I think he's one of the biggest critics out there too.
I
That's
think that's
not
why they
like
got rid of
toxic about it. Maybe, right? Like
That is
seriously.
why he allegedly got let go. Is because he was
Yeah.
one of the few, what everyone call him, caster analysts that was critical publicly about the company, and then he met like this happens a lot, and like Psyonix, you know, analysts or stuff were critically publicly about them, all of a sudden just let go. I don't know, it happens a lot. It's weird, but
Well, Waller's known for being someone who just speaks his mind and is
yeah.
completely open about it and doesn't hold back. And yeah, after a couple of tweets, maybe that's why. I'm not
And
sure.
we've seen
But
stacks on Reddit say like I can't really give my true opinions, but like
Stacks is a real one though.
a lot of the
He's
casters have like kind of like given gray responses of like sometimes they can't necessarily give their honest thoughts on things.
yeah.
yeah, I guess they don't want to be the next Waller, like, and just get
I don't know
booted.
why. It's just a yeah, it's just an observation. But yeah, this is like the big thing of like yeah, and this is why I think some of this on this con, and like I know Covelo also had a tweet that can be like dangerous. Like if you guys don't know, Covelo's like I think he's just an esport agent in general for more than just Rocket League, but he's like an esport agent. And he tweeted like the people who bash Psyonix constantly for doing nothing to the game are the same people who complain when an event comes out around and they don't get invited. And he said I think it's weird how somehow defends the game and 50 other people harass them for it. And like I just think this frame of thinking, although like yeah, you don't want Sonics to get like so much hate and like feel bad about it, and you don't want them to like hate their community at the same time. It's like I think too many people at the top of the RL scene just kind of like ride Psyonix a little too much and give them too much credit at the same time, and that's like I think that's been toxic and negative towards Psyonix's actual output. Because like why be ambitious when all of our top content creators and stuff just love us, and all of our top esports players thinks we're the best and doing the best job? Why change anything or make it better when they all think it's the best, even though they're not getting like the actual metrics for like the majority of the community not thinking it's the best, or the majority of your actual like because at the end of the day, like the fans are what makes it, right? It's not the people at the top or the players, it's the fans, and they haven't really had the fans, and for whatever reason like they don't get them. So I just think it's like a little bit of toxic when all the top creators and stuff say that they shouldn't do anything. They're doing such a great job. It's kind of
Yeah, yeah, I
hurting the
think it's
game.
dangerous. Like, because
Yeah.
then if you're working at Psyonix, you're like, oh wow, like everyone is so happy with this, but you don't really truly see how you can improve when you're just constantly being satisfied with what everyone's saying. It's dangerous in my opinion as well.
It's toxic. Toxic positivity. It's a real thing.
I don't have the term for it. I don't know what it is, but
I
I
think
just
that's
know
all
it.
we have, right?
Yeah, that's
On
pretty much it. I think on those topics. I mean, yeah, so when we're so negative, it's not that we hate the game, although we've got a little bored with it maybe here and there. It's just that I wish it was so much better
Hate
because
the
like
ranked meta.
I'd want nothing more than just to be, Rocket League being my go-to played game because I do like love it and it will always be the game I've loved the most. I think throughout the entirety of my life, just with the amount I played it and like the success I had with it, but it's just more like tough love than it is.
Yeah.
Like I want nothing more than the game to do well. It just irritates me and makes me angry when I see it hasn't, and it's just kind of been wasting the years away for a lot of them on what they could be doing.
Yeah.
Like, you guys and myself are like one of like the hardcore, like most hardcore Rocket League fans I know. So it is tough love.
One day we'll see it prosper. I hope.
Maybe. You never know. I mean,
Never know,
I don't think it's
but-
going to die out anytime soon, but yeah, at the same time, I hope to see it prosper one day, but I don't know if it ever will. My fear is it'll just plateau. Yeah, UE5 hope.
biggest chance we got. We'll
UE5
see,
copium.
we'll
We'll
see.
see. If they do it
Yeah.
right, it would work. If they don't do it right, it's just the biggest copium take. But one day, I think that's everything for episode 6. So thanks for watching the. This is a bit of more of a kind of just a rant podcast, but as I said, it was a banger week for Rocket League tweets. And next week we'll get back into we'll actually have esports things to talk about, so it'll be fun. The major will be fun to watch. Get to see what teams
Mitch will be done by then.
Yeah, it probably will be. So yeah, thanks for coming. If you made it this far, and we'll see you people later.